This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
And welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to continue my conversation with Terry Arko about LSI and also the proper pH level. We're going to address high cyanuric acid levels in the pool, as well as saltwater pools. So I think you'll find this episode really informative if you're trying to balance the pool with both of those conditions. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Yeah, and here in California, one of the biggest problems is you can't take over a new pool without the cyanuric acid being over 100. I mean, it's just a fact that tablets are a necessary evil for pool service here. And some guys take it to the extreme. I mean, I've taken over pools where I can't even get a measurement with diluting it one-fourth, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a problem as well. And Bob Lowry spoke a lot about high cyanuric acid being one of the bigger issues. I mean,
right. Yeah. And there's still a lot of discussion on all that. And it's it's kind of a difficult conundrum, I guess, of our industry, because you're going to get so many different opinions also. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think we've all come to consensus. The lower we can keep the cyanuric acid, we know the better the chlorine is going to work. We can use lower amounts of chlorine as opposed to higher amounts of chlorine based on the ratios and all that, which everybody is beginning to learn about and know. I think my main point, though, is that I am still a strong proponent I don't want people to chase their pH, but I think we do still need to manage our pH, and we need to manage our pH within standards. And again, I think to say, well, standards don't apply to a residential pool, and I've had that brought up. I've had that thrown at me in classes where I brought this up. And so my response to that basically is to say, whether it's a commercial pool or whether it's a residential pool, you as a pool professional, your primary task is the health of human beings. That's why you're servicing somebody's pool. That's why they hired you to service their backyard pool. That's based on a survey. The #1 concern of pool owners, residential pool owners, was the safety of their water. Mm-hmm. So that's their concern. That's what they have. And so that is still a responsibility. And there are codes, standards, and health department standards. And you can go to your local health department, look them up on the web or, online, and you can see their standards. And that's what their standards are. And so the only thing I would point out is that, there is an ugly word called liability. And, if something were to occur in that pool where a young kid got an ear infection, pink eye, some sort of an illness, and you're the one handling the pool, then you're pretty much they're going to ask you questions about standards. Any kind of legality, they're going to work off of standards. And they're going to look at your records. And if your records don't reflect the standards, that could be a concern. That's not said to scare anybody, but that's the world we live in. And so I think we need to abide by that. It's like, and I had this conversation with some people about residential pools and how we don't have to be so concerned or whatever. And my analogy in response to that was, when I drive down the freeway, there's a sign that says 55 miles per hour is the speed limit. Now, do I have to drive 55 miles an hour? No, and most people don't. We're going 60, 65, 70, right? Yeah, okay, no big deal. Until you get caught. Then, you get pulled over. And you can't make any excuse because that sign says 55 miles per hour. That's the standard. And if you were breaking the standard, then there's you're going to pay for it. Same thing goes with pools, whether they're residential or commercial, we still have standards. And you might get away with it. You might skate and you might say, nobody's going to catch me in a residential pool. But I know of cases from residential pools where something happened and the 55 mile per hour sign, superseded, the freedom to go 70 miles an hour.
And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. What about like the guys struggling with the saltwater pools? I mean, this is where the pH is a major issue where, 8.4, 8.2, you add the muriatic acid, bring it down to 7.6. By the time you get back to the week later, it's at 8.4.
Sure.
And, it's a horrible kind of thing because those pools are always notorious for having pH over 8.
Yeah, absolutely understood. I think that there are still ways to manage. That's kind of my mantra. The chase to pH and all that. My mantra was always like, you got to manage the pH, and that's a part of your job. So in the salt pool, I think it's understanding what's increasing the pH in that pool to begin with. Number one, we know that it's in the unit itself because the unit is producing gases, chlorine gas, hydrogen gas. That's producing bubbling. The bubbling is producing aeration, and aeration is causing CO2 to leave the water, and that's causing the pH to go up. And also you're losing hydrogen from that standpoint, which is really what causes the pH to go up. Also, there's incredible heat in that unit because of there's incredible energy being expressed between those cells. So the water in that unit, the saltwater unit, is very warm to hot. So we know temperature is another thing. As temperature increases, that increases pH also. So a few things there. One is, I would say, the other thing is newer pools. So you got a saltwater generator on there, and then you got a waterfall and fountains and all these other aeration devices. So yeah, that's incredibly difficult in that situation. But I think first of all, recognizing what is it that's boosting my pH and what can I reduce from that standpoint. So maybe I can have a conversation with my customer, like, don't let the waterfall run for 24 hours or all day, reduce that a little bit, or just have it when you're out sitting, but then turn it off when you go in, something like that. The other thing is, according to the LSI, you can balance the LSI. And as a part of the LSI, you can balance your alkalinity on the lower end. And the minimum in the standard is 60. And so that's one thing I'm telling pros and everything, because they're trying to even, because the Bob Lowry with PCTI, we set a target of 90 for total alkalinity. But even Bob in the class taught that, hey, if you have a pH that's always constantly going up, lower your target by 10 ppm. Go to 80. If the pH is still going up, lower your target alkalinity by another 10 ppm. Go to 70. And I'm saying you can minimize it to 60. I wouldn't go any lower than 60 because 60 is the minimum of the standard, and you really probably shouldn't have to. Now, that's one thing that can slow that down, can slow the pH down, is simply by adjusting the alkalinity down. And I always say, as the alkalinity goes, so goes the pH. The pH is the driver, or the alkalinity is the driver of the pH. And this is, I get a lot of questions and talk back on this and so forth, but borates, I highly recommend borates for a salt pool. I recommend borates for any pool that has high aeration factors to help that. So yeah, those would be the two things. I'd say alkalinity control and borates.
Yeah. One thing that I also think is effective is that the pool pro should be able to find a sweet spot for that salt generator and reduce the output as much as possible. Bob Lowry was a big proponent of that. Like if you can get to half the output, you eliminate half the pH problem.
Yeah, that's another one. And keep in mind, I don't think it's that difficult to hold that pH at 7.8. We're not saying you even need to get it down into 7.4, 7.5, but just don't allow it to go any higher than 7.8.
Why do you think the LSI is the primary index? There's a few other ones out there, like the Hamilton index.
Well, again, I think the reason the Hamilton index, one thing to understand with the Hamilton index is the Hamilton index. Okay, that was created by a guy named Jock Hamilton, and Jock Hamilton was the owner of a company, and his company sold sodium bromide products for algae reduction and for all kinds of other things. Now bromine, as opposed to chlorine, is a good disinfectant even at higher pHs. In fact, bromine kind of at a pH of 8, you get good disinfection from bromine still. And there's other things about bromine, like if you get combined bromamines, overall, they aren't as irritable as chloramines. They still disinfect better than chloramines do in comparison to free chlorine and so forth. So there's differences with bromine in a pool. And the Hamilton index was designed for a bromine pool. One of the things, if you look at the Hamilton index, it will tell you pH of 8. Okay, well, that's why more recently the PHTA removed any references to Hamilton index, primarily because of that one statement where it was telling everyone to keep the pH outside of the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the reason that we're kind of seeing that's not as prevalent anymore.
Yeah, I was in Chicago recently, and there's this famous outdoor water area for kids, and we're walking by. We're still like maybe 100 yards away from it, and I can smell the ammonia, like the Windex smell. And my son's next to me. He's like, "Hey, Dad, smell that?" Because he already knows like my little thing about that smell. I'm like, "Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near that water." And some people think that means that the pool is being disinfected when they smell that at a hotel.
Well, that's the big misnomer. And I even had a CEO of when I worked with C-Clear, and we had one of our CEOs who owned a pool and a spa, and he even said, he goes, I always felt like when I smelled that really heavy chlorine smell, that meant that everything was being disinfected, that was good. That was a good thing. And he goes, and even in my own pool, if I got that, I felt like, oh, okay, everything's good, and, I was surprised to learn that, no, that's not good.
Yeah, because chlorine has no smell, but I know that Clorox does add scents to their bleach all the time. It kind of, but typically you shouldn't be able to smell the chemicals when you're walking by a pool,
Sure. And you got to look at the difference too, though, in, the reason you're smelling chlorine when you're putting bleach into a washing machine is you got to just think of all the contaminant. You got a whole pile of dirty clothes in there, and you're adding bleach to that. Well, you're going to have tons of chloramines in that situation. That's why you smell it. And so if you get the laundry room smell from a swimming pool, that is not a good thing.
No, definitely not. And I don't know if I know too much, but I don't think I've used a public pool at a hotel since I was a kid,
No, same with me. And, like I said, I traveled a lot, and times I traveled with my family and my kids. And I was the guy that had the little vial of test strips. And, and I can actually remember once I was traveling with my young son, and he wanted to swim, and it was an indoor pool, and we walked in, and that odor of chloramines first hit me. Then I looked, and the pool was kind of hazy, and so as it turned out, because I'm a pool guy, I was a pool sales guy at the time, I had chlorine shock in the trunk of my car. I also had chitosan clarifier in my car. And I thought, okay. And I went in and I shocked the pool, and I hit it with chitosan clarifier, and I told my son, you can swim tomorrow. Anyway, we got up the next day, and pool's crystal clear, and the chlorine was like, 3-4 ppm. And I said, okay, safe to get in now.
Yeah, and I think, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I do believe that if you are using a commercial pool that's maintained properly, it's, you can swim in there, and because the water is always running, and probably in the morning would be the safest, I would think, since it's running all night.
Yeah, morning would be the safest. I go swimming, at a public pool, and I swim early in the morning for that very purpose.
Yeah.
Because I realize that, well, first of all, in a public pool, you're going to get, 6 turnovers in 24 hours of the pool, and and they're running their pumps continuously. But the most recovery you're going to get is from the time they close till the next morning, which would be 12 hours maybe. That water's had a lot of time to recover and get filtered. Early morning in a public pool is probably the best time to swim.
Yeah, and most pool pros like to get to the commercial pools early in the morning to service them too. Because anytime later, someone's always using the pool. I was doing this mobile home complex not too far from my house, and it was a senior mobile home complex, and I don't think I can get there early enough to get that pool clean. Those guys are in that pool 6:30 in the morning. It's crazy. And even though it says it's not open till 8, they just go in and they're using the pool.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for the other parts of this series, you can, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel Monday through Friday. I post an episode there each day during the week. You can also go to my website, swimmingforlearning.com, and on the banner, click on the podcast icon. That'll take you to a drop-down menu with over 1,700 podcasts there. And if you're interested in my coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.